Divorce me while I am sick. That's fine, enjoy being single. Not my story, but a family friend's story. I knew this lovely German lady who I will call Heidi. Not real name. She was married to an Israeli man who I'll call Douche. Douche was a douche for a number of reasons. He worked with my dad in IT, who said he had a hero complex where he would cause disasters at work and then try to be the hero and save the day. We even suspect he caused a huge IT disaster at our national airport while he was working there. He was also really creepy. He creeped on my younger sister, calling her randomly and asking to pick her up. He was the exact opposite of his wife, who was lovely and sweet and charismatic, and I have no idea how they ended up together. Unfortunately, a while after we made friends with them, Heidi got very sick. Her colon stopped working, she almost died. Thankfully she was in a country with stellar healthcare who saved her life, but she found she has Crohn's disease, and she had to get a colostomy bag. While she was recovering from her surgery, Douche announced he wanted to divorce. His words were, and I quote, "I didn't marry a sick woman." Ducking prick. He left her high and dry, and very soon was seeing someone else. He lost all the friends he had made in our country with his awful behavior. My family told him he was no longer welcome near us as we were there for Heidi. He finally fecked off back to Israel. Apparently he had got into quite a bit of debt while in my country, and skipped off to avoid paying. Good riddance, we all said. Heidi found her feet eventually. She took up photography, and went to university to study it. She did very well for herself, and lived a happy life free from Douche. After about a year, Douche contacted Heidi and she told us all about it. Apparently he was trying to sweet talk her into going over to Israel to go through with the divorce proceedings. According to Heidi, your marital status is on your identity card in Israel, and it's one of the first things a girl asks to see when you go on a date. When the girls saw he was married on his card, they'd never go for a second date. So every time he'd call her asking when she was coming over, she'd put a huge acid-eating grin on and reply, "Oh, I don't know, I'm not really in a position to fly with my condition and all. Maybe when I get better." She knew full well he won't set foot back here because his creditors were still looking for their money back. She would just relish in the knowledge that he was getting rejected by all those women he was pursuing in Israel while she chilled with us having a great time. Heidi is doing much better now. She went back to Germany, though still visits my family and her friends from time to time. She's still her awesome self. I don't know what Douche is up to now, but I suspect after all these years he is still a douche. Story 2. You cut me out of your life and spread lies about me. I destroy your first love memories. On mobile, in a hurry, and English is not my first language. I just remembered a mild revenge I inflicted upon a loved one, some years ago. She was my best friend. We were both study in the same university in my country and the same field of study at the time. She was a bigger girl, so I'd let her make remarks about how fat I was. I'm not, because if I spoke back, I'd hurt her feelings. Overall, this person wasn't that bad. We were super close and we even had Easter vacations to her hometown. The thing is, in my country it's common for girls above the age of consent to have relationships with older men. Even significantly older men. She once told me that when she was 16 years old she had an intense relationship with a radio producer. It was consensual. She even told her own father that he sees him as a father figure, so that he'll let her go alone to the radio station. She was obsessed even then, in her early 20s. She told everything about him to me. His name, his profession, his location. Everything. She was still mad in love with him, although she had some relationships at the time. They just lost touch. Nothing significant happened. This girl, let's call her UB from Ungrateful Bitch, did some shady things against me. She was slut-shaming me to other people, she was fat-shaming me even though she was the fat one, and she constantly low-key harassed me. But it was a joke. She had numerous affairs at the time, but she was telling people I was promiscuous. UB, R of the Blue, after 3 years of our friendship, deleted me from her social media. When I asked her why, she said that the socials are for her family only, which was clearly a bullshit excuse. She even had people she met once in her life. She later told lies behind my back to my other friends, and she ignored me when I confronted her. UB eventually moved to another city, when we had no contact at all. I just saw the update from another's friend post. Whatever. I found her first love's account, now in his mid-30s, was a husband and a father of 2. I became his friend on Facebook and I took screenshots about everything, his thin and beautiful wife, his 2 twin boys. Anything. Then, I made a fake account and I sent the said screenshots to my former friend. She saw the pictures. I know I broke her. She doesn't know it was me, but I don't care. She now has the same bitter taste in her mouth. Story 3, my lawyer and I laid a trap for my adulterous alcoholic wife in my divorce. When I got divorced, my alcoholic wife of 18 years had started another affair, this time with her addictions counselor. My lawyer and I laid a trap for them. Just in case you don't know, intimate relations between a counselor and patient are very frowned upon by the regulatory bodies. And I was more than pissed after putting her through rehab, $25,000, which I didn't have to do, only to have her fall back into her old behavior. Shortly before the divorce was finalized, I filed a complaint with the state body licensing health professions. Knowing they were in some peril because of their unprofessional relationship, I had already gotten him fired from a major teaching hospital. She had backed off her exorbitant demands. I paid her a very modest settlement, kept the house, got custody of the 3 teenage kids, plus got child support. Her lawyer naturally included a clause in the divorce where I had to agree to not say anything negative about her lover and their relationship. But the lawyer ducked up and never asked if I had already filed charges and thus didn't require me to rescind them. Her lawyer had assumed I was just bad-mouthing them to neighbors and friends, and it never occurred to the lawyer that we were doing much more. When the Board of Health Professions responded to my complaint shortly after the divorce was finalized, I told them that it would take a subpoena to get me to testify. A subpoena trumps an agreement in a divorce settlement. They were happy to oblige. They stripped his license, and placed him on a register of sanctioned health professionals. He never worked again. They were broke in a handful of years, and she divorced him when the money ran out. In the interim, his mother had died, leaving a fair-sized estate, so it took longer than I expected. Oh, and the frosting on the cake was that his wife and I traded notes, notably hotel receipts from the time of their affair, that helped each of us in our respective divorces. Justice was served. Story 4, should have just let me walk away with my share. All you had to do was let me walk away. Some background: I'm a practicing internal medicine physician and formerly a 50% owner in what was once a fairly successful med spa with 4 locations. At least until what happened below. Before anyone accuses me of breaking the law, blah blah blah, don't. This has been litigated, resolved, and I won. But it is a fun story. In the beginning, my business partner and I were mere acquaintances working with a large hospitalist practice. Looking for extra income to pay off student loans, we decided to band together and open a med spa offering Botox, minor cosmetic procedures, B12 infusions etc., and it was a huge hit. Big enough for us to go full-time and expand. This lasted around 7 years. Beginnings of problems. My partner decides that his wife isn't enough for him, and begins to step out on her. Now this is none of my business, however it does become my business when you embezzle money to pay for your sugar baby's gifts from our business account. Fast forward a few years and I've sat on this information because business overall was too good to walk away from it. However, COVID changed things and we had to close 2 of our 4 locations. My partner has never been great with money or time management, which is why for the most part I handled all of the back office stuff from ordering supplies to billing and payroll and so on. This comes into play later. Around 6 months ago I began looking for a new position and found a new job. I didn't want to leave my partner in a hard spot, so I gave him a 90-day notice to find another partner or otherwise get his business affairs in order before I resigned. He instead used this time to siphon off more funds for his side piece and allow his unruly children to ransack my office while I was away on a family vacation and frequently not showing up to work or showing up late or super hungover, leaving me to do extra work. My time to go and time to get even. Finally the time had come to wind down my time. Per our agreement my partner was to buy out my 50% of the practice, which we agreed would occur on the Monday of my last week. Basically I'd take 50% of our liquid assets as a bank transfer. Monday, upon checking, the bank account had been locked out, and upon regaining access found that $30,000 of my half had been moved to an account I did not have access to. I had it and spent the next few days plotting my revenge. Remember those back office things that I handled above? Well, all of those documents, processes, order forms etc., they are all on our shared office hard drive and absolutely vital to the practice and way too much work for my partner to do himself in a short time. I just so happened to buy an identical model and take the original hard drive home with me. Upon plugging the hard drive in, I found a backup of his calendar, pictures and emails between he and his stress, which I forwarded to his wife. The following day I ran a full-page ad in the local paper announcing a special holiday deal on our services which we had planned. Lastly, I hired some college students to write a slew of bad reviews on Google Yelp to tank the overall ratings. Aftermath: the week after my departure, the clinic was insanely busy and quickly ran out of supplies. Since the order forms etc. were gone, he had to turn away new and long-standing clients. My partner sued for the documents etc., and I countersued for the $30,000 he owed me. We settled by exchanging the two. I have since heard his wife divorced him, his stress left him, and subsequently he has filed for bankruptcy as the clinic never recovered, and his wife cleaned him out. I, on the other hand, really like my new job. Story 5. I got fired and went after the boss's money, his hotel and his marriage. Back when I still was in university, I used to work for a hotel to make ends meet. When I started, the hotel very urgently needed new personnel. So I cut a deal with the old owner about getting to choose and pick shifts, so I could visit my courses and exams. Speaking some extra foreign languages, I also got a little bonus each month on top. The old owner was a great guy. He owned multiple hotels, so I rarely saw him. But when he was in the house, he always made a point to have drinks with the staff, chat with us, and if we were free he even invited those of the front desk to fancy restaurants who were not on shift. Fast forward. I had worked in the hotel for a few years now and was nearing the completion of my studies. So it wouldn't have been an eternity until I had to quit anyway. As I was of course more interested to work in my field of study. As part of my deal with the old owner, I mostly chose to work night shifts. allowing me to visit my courses at university during the day. To make up for my privileges, I had picked up the habit of doing some extra work in the dead of night other shifts would normally have to do, when I on contrast could have sat around and stared at the walls. People were grateful for the help in the beginning, and we became a rather tight-knit group. But over time people rotated in and out. When the old owner retired and his shoal of a son took over the business as the new owner, I already feared the worst. The new owner didn't like me very much. I never found out the exact reason for that one. I was at that point nearly the sole veteran left from when I started. Among the tasks I had taken on was doing light clerical tasks to ease the manager's job in the morning. For that, I generally had to use the manager's network account. One night while doing my lists, I logged into the manager's account and emailed to do my job. Then I saw an email with my name in the subject line. I know it is not nice to snoop, but of course, I read it. Turns out the new owner wanted to get rid of me. I still had my old employee contract with the bonuses for foreign language abilities and was allowed by my contract to pick and choose shifts. I can only assume these privileges are what made the new owner hate me. No idea if he had other reasons. Because to be honest, these seem very weak to me. But he couldn't fire me without cause. On top of that, I would be owed severance if fired. And generally, there were not enough bodies in the shift rotation without me. Though the new owner didn't seem to understand that point as the emails told me. I looked for more email concerning me, and found them. There was an email chain between some of the employees, the manager and the new owner. I was of course not vexed as I was the hated topic. The employees didn't like me hogging the night shifts. Because those paid better and for every night you worked you got paid the night bonus. The manager was the only one rather neutral on the matter and just curbed their enthusiasm to get rid of me, as they needed me to be fully staffed. The new owner and my colleagues actively conspired to make a hostile work environment so I would quit of my own volition. I was furious. I thought about a variety of reactions. From egging their cars to burning down the hotel. But I settled on a less crazy method of revenge. I called my uncle at 2 a.m. asking for advice. My uncle is a lawyer. So for sake of proof, I forwarded myself all the emails. I made photos, printed them out, made copies and filmed the whole deal just to be sure. My uncle told me to sit tight and see if things got worse, or if it was just bluster. And so I gave it a few days. And things did take a turn. Snide remarks about my looks, clothing and so on were only the tip of the iceberg. Some of the colleagues were just as professional as before. But the conspirators always left extra work for me or pawned of acid duties they normally had to do on me. I always kept a spare shirt and suit at work, just to have a change, which suddenly disappeared. One guy even started to threaten me with violence. But I kept clenching my BTT cheeks. I would not give them the satisfaction of saving on the severance or giving in. I am a big boy after all. I did, however, stop doing any extra work I was not obligated to do. Which in the end was the reason they used to fire me. They still had to pay me severance. The next day my uncle with bundled proof of the email and all documented harassment by my colleagues served the hotel my lawsuit. It started with wrongful termination, and ended with harassment. Reportedly the manager went white as a sheet when he realized where the emails must have come from. The new owner had been on vacation and had to cancel his expensive vacation in France to deal with this. Their counsel advised them to settle. So I accepted my severance and a hefty bonus on top. Enough money to last me until the end of university without work. But that was not all my revenge. I had gone after the new owner's money. But in the next step, I went after the hotel. I had used all the spare time during night shifts alone, to document every last violation of city, county, district, state and federal law I could find. That went from minor things like some harmless mold under the kitchen sink to substantial violations like modifications to the building. The building was under a limited form of historical protection by federal law, on the ground of being built, and inhabited by somewhat important historical figures a few hundred years back. So every renovation or change in floor plans needs to be signed off on by a committee, which can take ages. There is also a grant paid to the new owner by the government for keeping the building intact as is. So with my uncle's help, I sent documentation of every violation I could find to the corresponding agency. In 1 month everything from health, building code, fire safety to the finance and work police crawled over the hotel. In the end, it was the building and fire inspectors that shut the place down. The new owner had done substantial renovations to the top floor luxury apartments, which he used when he was in town. So the new owner had to pay back the grant, pay fines for unauthorized alterations to the building, endangering his guests, because something wasn't built right according to fire code, and had to close down shop until the building was fixed. I also tipped off a friend who had studied journalism and worked at a local paper. The paper ran an article on all the violations accumulated, which tanked the business once it had reopened, as the newspaper article had led to horrible reviews. In the end, to afford all the fines, repayments and building cost, the new owner sold the hotel. As the cherry on top, all the assholes who had tried to harass me out lost their job. Granted, the people who didn't do anything to me lost their jobs too, but didn't do anything to stand up for me or help me either. So I don't feel too much remorse. And the revenge cherry on top was that the new owner, whenever he was in town, used to bring home escorts, which in my country is not illegal. But he was married. It took some doing to get that information to the new owner's wife. But one of my former colleagues, who had quit before this had all happened, had her email. So I let her know what the new owner was up to when he was out of town. I don't know what exactly happened, but they did divorce in the end. Make of that what you will. Redditors' reactions. Redditor 1, okay, this seems more on nuclear revenge actually. Also, remind me to never PSS you off. Op answer, I am not very vindictive honestly. But in addition to the events above, I had a lot of acid happen in my personal life too. So I maybe took it up a notch too far. Redditor 2, all the best stories start with I have a insert family member who's a lawyer. That's when you know shit's really about to get intense. Redditor 3, pro tip, don't PSS off the guy who knows where all the bodies are buried. Well done, and your boss definitely deserved it.